Hi there, and thanks for tuning in with another episode of Math with Mullins. Today we're going to be talking about Lesson 2.2, Adding Rational Numbers. Today you're only going to be looking for 6 things to write down. The first thing is words, and the rest of them are going to be some examples to try. So let's go ahead and get started to see what we're learning today. The first thing we're going to make sure we understand is that whenever you add rational numbers, you're going to be using the same rules that you use for integers, and those rules are right here. So what you're going to want to do is just pause the video and write down the rules, basically just this song, just so you remember that and get that kind of fresh in your brain again. Remember, it's the song, same signs add and keep, different signs subtract. Keep the sign of the larger value, then you'll be exact. So go ahead and pause now, write it down, and then we'll get to it on our next slide. So this one you're just going to watch me do. This is when you have fractions. Just a reminder with fractions, when you add or subtract them, you're going to need a common denominator. So just make sure you have that. And right now we don't. But what I do know is that I can change this 3 and make it a 6. I would just multiply both things in this fraction by 2. So that's going to change negative 8/3 to negative 16/6. Now I have both my fractions have the same denominator, and that's exactly what I need to add or subtract them. Notice I have 2 different signs, and different signs meaning I need to subtract. So 16 take away 5 is 11, and I'm going to keep my denominator, and my answer will have to be negative because my larger value is negative. I'm not going to keep my answer as an improper fraction. Instead, I'm going to change it to a mixed number. That just means 6 will go into 11 one time with 5 remaining. So my answer for this one should be -1 and 5/6. These next few you're going to try. Remember, make sure you have your common denominator. Go ahead and take time now to pause the video and try. Once you're done, click play, and we'll check our work. All right, let's see how you did. Remember this first one, you do need to have a common denominator, so I'm going to change this 4 to the 8. So I'm going to multiply both those by 2. So my new fractions will be -7/8 plus 2/8, and then different signs subtract. When I'm subtracting 7, take away 2, I get 5. Keep my denominator the same, and my answer needs to be negative because my larger value is negative. Answer to letter A is -5/8. For letter B, you notice that you have both 3's, and that's great. So what you're going to be doing with this one, I would maybe change that improper fraction to a mixed number, just so they can look alike. So I'm going to keep -6 and 1/3 the same, but I'm going to change 20/3. 30 can go into 26 times with 2 remaining, so 6 and 2/3. Notice I still have the correct same denominators, and I do have different signs again, so I will have to subtract. So I'm essentially just going to take 6 and 2/3, which is the larger one, and subtract 6 and 1/3 from it. 2/3 minus 1/3 is 1/3, and 6 minus 6 is 0. So my answer will just be 1/3, and I'm going to keep 1/3 positive because my larger value, 6 and 2/3, is positive. The last one, it might be easier to make them both improper fractions. So I'm just going to rewrite the number 2 as 2/1, because any whole number can be a fraction as long as you write a 1 underneath it, and then add it to -7/2. I do need to change my first denominator, so I'm going to multiply both of these by 2. So I'm going to get 2 times 2, that'd be 4. So 4/2 plus -7/2. Noticing I have different signs, so I'm going to subtract them. 7 take away 4 is 3, so 3/2. 3/2, but again, that's going to have to be negative because my larger value is negative. And I don't want to keep my final answer like this, so I am going to change it into a mixed number as my final answer. 2 can go into 3 one time with 1 left over, so final answer for letter C is -1 and 1/2. You might have solved some of these a different way, especially letter B and letter C, because they have mixed numbers and improper fractions within the problem. As long as you were able to get to your correct answer for both of those, you would be fine. This next one you're going to watch me do, this is just kind of a review about decimals. Again, different signs, so that means I'm going to subtract these two. When you subtract or add decimals, you have to line up the decimal. So just as a reminder, you might want to jot that down in your notes. When you add or subtract decimals, you have to line up your decimals and place values. I'm going to subtract, so I'm going to put the larger number on top, 7.62, take away 4.05. Notice that the ones place is lining up, the tenths, and then the hundredths place is lining up. Now I'm ready to subtract them. I can't do 2 minus 5, so I'm going to borrow from my neighbor. That 6 becomes a 5, so the 2 can become a 12. And now I'm ready to go. 12 minus 5 is 7, 5 minus 0 is 5, and 7 take away 4 is 3. I get 3.57, and I am going to keep that positive because my largest value, 7.62, is also positive. So here's a decimal question that you're going to try on your own. So let's go ahead and pause the video right now. Try it on your own, and then once you're done, click play. All right, here we go. Notice how these are different signs. So you should have subtracted to get your answer. I am going to put 15.3 on the top because it's the larger value and subtract 12.5 from it. Again, I have to borrow. 5 becomes a 4, 3 is a 13, that's going to be 8, 2, and 0. So my answer should be 2.8, and I am going to keep the 2.8 positive because my largest value, 15.3, is also positive. Here's another one for you to try as well. It's a little bit different because now you have same signs. So just remember what you do when you have same signs. Pause the video real quick, try it on your own, and then click play when you're ready to check it. All right, so here's how we're supposed to do this one. Since I have two negatives here, same signs, I'm going to add and keep the negative. So what I'm essentially going to do is I'm just going to add 8.15 and 4.3 like they're regular positive numbers, and then bring the negative down once I'm done. Notice I'm missing a hundredths place value here and 4.3, so I'm just going to draw another 0 to make it all even, and I'm ready to add. 5 plus 0 is 5, 1 and 3 is 4, and 8 plus 4 is 12. And just keeping in mind, I have two negatives, so I need to keep the same sign as for my answer, so negative 12.45 would be my answer for number 4. These last two, just wanted to show you, and you can kind of write as I explain it, but there will be a few questions maybe in your homework that ask you to evaluate the expression when they give values for A and give values for B. So this is what that would look like. You're essentially going to plug in whenever you see values of B or values of A. So for question number 5, B plus 4A would need to be negative 5 halves, because B is equal to negative 5 halves, plus 4 times 1 half. So you maybe just think about what would 4 times 1 half be equal to? That's going to give you, you can either do 4 over 1 and multiply, that's going to give you 4 halves, or just 2, but we're going to keep it like that so we can add this negative 5 halves. I have different signs, so I'm going to subtract. So 5 take away 4 is 1, keep my denominator, and my answer will be negative because my larger value is negative. Same thing over here for number 6. It says find the absolute value of A plus B. So A is 1 half, B is negative 5 halves. 1 half plus negative 5 halves. That's different signs, so I'm going to subtract them. 5 take away 1 is 4, keeping my denominator the same. And I do have to give this answer a negative for now because my larger value is negative. But remember what absolute value does is it basically says how far is this from 0 on the number line, and negative 4 halves is still 4 halves from 0 on the number line. And then you can also simplify this one, 4 divided by 2, or 2 goes in the 4 2 times. So 2 would be your answer for number 6. So that's going to conclude our video. Remember the 6 things you're supposed to have in your notes. If you need to, go back and rewatch it. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get started on our next topic. Thanks for tuning in.